Yeah, this is live. This is a bit of an awkward one, guys. A little bit of production value. You guys might see
Yes.
a little bit of a intimate situation with me going on over here. But
There we go.
basically,
You're fine now.
some technical difficulties
Sort
caused us to set a couple of things up last minute. Anyway, this is this week's Topdeck talk show. We are joined by Alias filling in for Jagaris.
Hello.
And of course,
Hang on.
Lockin and Mithranor. Say hi, guys.
What's
Hi.
up?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Swim is so enormous, right? I'm trying to get him to not be so enormous in Skype, but I don't.
I'm
know.
also sorry. I'm so enormous.
Oh,
Okay.
Hang on.
So
There we go. All right. Now let's not touch, and we should be okay.
Okay.
All right. As long as I don't touch, we should be fine.
It's an
All right.
unfortunate side effect of the Wild Hunt plague. It makes your head grow twice as large.
Yes, indeed. All right. So that's how it's gonna be. I'm not gonna touch anymore. It seems like we're in and we're fine. You guys let us know if we are all audible and visual. I'll tell you why, because Dear Alerts got snowed in. So he's kind of working on 8% battery life, and like an hour to go before showtime, he's like, snowed in, can't host show, help, help! So, yes, alright, so I'm just not gonna touch anything, so everyone, F for Alerts' interwebs and heat and everything, because, yeah, he's in a bit of a pickle, so yes. So I'm hosting it today, I'm sorry if anything goes wrong, yeah, points for the best clip of fails in this week's episode, so go, yeah. Anyway.
All right. So what do we have this week to talk about, boys? Obviously, there are
I touched again. Shit. Sorry, you're gonna be enormous again. I'm sorry.
There are a few new things that we have to discuss. Obviously, we have the reveal of the new Challenger location. This is going to be taking place in the salt mines in Poland. It's pretty funny.
All right.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah. Very clearly an ironic choice. I mean,
Yeah, it's a pretty cool location though, I must admit. Like the teaser video that they launched for it looks rad. Like I would kind of like to go to that event. Pity it's still far away.
they,
Yeah, I mean, the location
they don't
looks
even
really-
actually have spectators, which is like sort of sucky, right? Because they have these really awesome locations, but no one can go see them unless you're there.
Yeah.
True, but I mean the locations are kind of they're pretty small in order to be
That's true.
what they are. So you'd have to have like 20 people top spectators. So
That is one
Then it would
thing.
be-
That's one thing I'd like to see, like at Gwent events in future, is spectator modes. Because I mean, I'm sure you guys can attest to the fact that having spectators at a live event is actually pretty cool. Coming from the Wild Hunt, yeah, like just seeing people's reactions and stuff from the event, that was great. You know, like people on the edge of their seats, seeing you guys like hosting, like we actually see you while the game's going on. That was awesome. By the way, good job, you two. That was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
I actually I didn't play during then, but the first Challenger had a live had like a live spectator audience, right? Like,
I'm sure it did.
or was it the? Or I guess the live spectator audience was, I guess, the other people there. So never mind.
I had a few extra people there too.
Okay,
Yeah, just a
so,
couple.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has been just exactly
No,
how
why
long
did it-
since
Why did you go big again? Sorry, you're big again.
it's okay. You know what? You can just leave me like that. It's totally fine.
I just need to not touch my desk at all, so I'm just going to back up here, and we
Okay,
should be
so
fine.
it has been about what has it been? Roughly 2 weeks since the launch of the arena mode. Is that right? I cannot remember because I've been basically dead for the last
I
week.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
about
it's been
2
about-
weeks.
And obviously, that's the most exciting thing. What are you guys? Well, what are your guys' feelings about how this has really kind of played out? Obviously, we had a lot of kind of thoughts and speculations. Some people were optimistic about the launch of arena mode. Some people were more pessimistic. I'd love to hear what you guys think about how that has really kind of gone down. Whether you've been surprised, disappointed.
Lockin?
Starting with Mithranor.
Mithranor, cool. Go for it.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. It is better than I expected it to be. I'll say that. I still think it maybe could use a few tweaks here and there. I know a lot of people are saying to
Brain and
change
the numbers or
the numbers of golds and silvers and things like that. I don't know though. I personally kind of like it. Just you have like 2 12 gold decks throwing shit at each other. That's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
But it's also really frustrating when you get like a 4 gold deck and your opponent plays only golds and silvers and you see 1 bronze the entire game, and it's just like, yeah, that's cool. Let's fight that. But I don't know. I can see it going either way. I do think the absurdness of the lots of golds does make it more interesting, and reining in those numbers would make the game mode, I think, inherently just less interesting, because you'd have a lot more of just, well, throw this bronze away because, it's not going to do much.
Yeah, that's potentially true. I don't know. What do you think, Lockin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I kind of expected arena mode to be pretty boring, but actually been pretty surprised at how, like, fun and different it's been. Kind of in the same boat where I don't really, the game mode is, like, fun at first, like, really, really fun because it's so different, and then it sort of, you see some, underlying flaws with it. Initially just kind of like, like the flip and tempo and all that, but when you set that aside just from like having fun with the game mode, I do kind of like how wacky it is. So even though reining in the golds and silvers would make it more balanced, I think it would kind of ruin like the wacky side of the game mode, which is sort of what I play it for. So I kind of like it how it is.
Oh, Swim, you're muted.
Sorry, that was a bit of an issue. So, I do agree with you partially, Lockin, but I've something that I've heard a lot of people say, and something that I think I agree with myself, is that if the numbers were reined into some capacity, and of course it depends exactly how it would work, whether golds would floor, at, for example, say 5 or 6, as opposed to say something like 8. It completely depends exactly how narrow this goes. But I think it could be easily reined in like a little bit, and you'd still have a lot of like the kind of like wacky random, anything can happen scenario.
I must say though, like since Arena's launched, I haven't really touched ranked or pro ladder at all. It's just really fun. Like you just go in, you don't have to worry about MMR or anything. But I do think that them having leaderboards would be really cool to see, because I know there's quite a few people.
I love Arena leaderboards.
Would be awesome. Because I see in a few people's titles, they're like 9 wins, 13, 14, whatever. Looking at you, Crocarian. And yeah, I think having an official boast board would be pretty rad. So pretty please, and I'm sorry about all the Skype issues, guys. This is my first time. It's okay. We'll just have Big Swim every now and then.
Yeah, no, that's totally okay. Yeah, no, I actually, honestly, like, based on how Gwent has run, and CDPR's willingness to put, I mean, they already do have, like, a ranked leaderboards with tons of different regions. I actually would be surprised if they didn't implement an arena leaderboard, sometime in the coming patches.
Yeah, I would actually I was going to say, I would actually expect it to come in, and once it does, I'll actually kind of take arena a bit more, like, seriously, just to be able to like brag, try to get on the leaderboard, and then maybe because then you get people who can play arena because it's wacky and fun, and then you get like the Creparians of the game. I guess we already have exactly. Creparians, so we get the but like you get the people that are really interested in like just being able to be like, yeah, I'm the best at what I do. So
well, how would that leaderboard work? Would it be like your total times you won, like 9 victories in arena, or would it be like your overall wins losses, or would it be
it would be basically one of two things. I think it would be either win-loss ratio for that season or something like that, or it would be average wins at the end of each run for that season.
Yeah, that's the way Hearthstone does it.
Yeah.
And I think that would be best. It's just average wins per run is the most balanced. Yeah. I would advise average wins per run to be like the best way to do it. I think that's like the best way to determine skill, is because you assume that over hundreds of runs, you assume that the RNG and the draft balances out, and then your average wins per run is the best way to determine who's best.
Yeah,
that seems pretty fair.
Yeah. No, I think that something like that would be pretty cool. I'd like to see the RNG reined in. Not a lot. a little bit, not a set amount of like golds, bronzes, and silvers per draft, but maybe something like a little bit more controlled. This is something that I was talking with a lot of people about like early on, and I wasn't actually so in this position before, but I've played a good amount of arena by then, and I think like a small amount of reining in would definitely do it a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, okay, Alias was saying earlier, she's been playing a ton of arena. I've been playing an absolute ton of arena. I mean, are you guys, I don't know about you guys, I'm literally not playing Constructed this season. I might not play Constructed next season. I don't know. It depends if there's new cards and new decks to make. Because I play Constructed as a deck builder. I really just like Constructed to be able to make new decks. And that's what I really see in there. When there's not new cards, I'm just going to be a full-time arena player.
But with the 10 new cards, Swim, like, have you been messing around with them?
10 new cards.
Well, there are 10 new cards. I mean, you can do stuff with them. Like, does that not entice you to try and do something around them, or are you just like, nah, screw it? Arena.
There's only 2 new cards that you really can do anything with. One of them is kind of faction locked and gimmicky, and the other one is Triss,
yeah. I'm seeing her a lot.
Which isn't, I mean, there's not really. I mean, she's pretty underrated. She was underrated.
She's
first,
pretty good.
She's not anymore. But yeah, no, she's pretty solid. And I think a lot of people are kind of messing around with like finding places with her, but there's not really like new kind of ideas to play for. It's just mostly optimization tweaks.
Yeah.
There's like Sabbath decks you can make, and that's pretty cool. It ends up like definitely, basically just kind of win or lose. And just kind of hope they don't have removal. And I could see myself messing around with something like that if Arena wasn't around, but I don't know, it's nothing we haven't seen before.
I'll say this, like the Sabbath deck you think will be all cool to mess around with, and then you realize it's just like, do you get to Mandrake Parasite it? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, I win.
Exactly.
Do you? Oh, I lose. Like,
Exactly.
You think it'll be really like a cool deck building puzzle, and then 2 games in you realize, oh no, this is just like, I mean, it is a really cool card, though, to be fair, don't get me wrong, but there's just not a lot to, like, really experiment with. I don't know. The reason I play Ranked is for the shiny borders, so I'm still going to make a push towards the end here, probably. I'm, like, 3k MMR, though, so I've got a while to go. Because Arena is just, like, way more fun than Constructed right now, so that's what I've mostly been playing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Like, I did mess around with the Sabbath deck that Sabbath is one of the 2 units in the deck.
Yeah.
And that's about the only Constructed I've played this season, and that was just because I wanted to, mess around with Sabbath. Then I went back to Arena.
I played a game today against a guy who dry passed round 1, so I just chucked a card on the board, and then I dry passed round 2. Well, I actually played him round 2, and then he played his Sabbath. And I was like, nope, I have nothing to remove him, so I'm out of here. But he carried on buffing the living crap out of that thing. And then he adrenaline rushed it. And then he went on a wing and a prayer in the 3rd round. And my Serenova took out his Sabbath. So that was pretty fun.
Really? See, I've been in the reverse spot there. And I've adrenaline rushed the Sabbath and gone into round 3. And then they drop Serenova, and you just drop Parasite and just instantly kill the Serenova. And it's just over.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's great.
It's an interesting card. Though. I like the mechanics of it. I think more like that would be fun.
My new favorite card is Roach Merciless.
Yes. Tell us how many times he has been effective.
All the time.
All the time. Cool card. He doesn't do much though, unfortunately.
I've never.
Is it a cool card?
Roach Merciless.
Yeah, is it really a cool card?
I've never picked him in Arena, but I have gotten him twice as Arena rewards for the Arena.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask because I'm a noob, right? And I've only ever done 1 9-win run. Do you get a gold card each time you finish the run?
Yes.
Unless it glitches.
Really? Yeah. That's cool.
Unless it glitches.
There's a bug where you don't get a card.
Oh god, you don't get anything.
Yeah, you don't get any card. You just get
the other again. Right.
What?
I haven't had it happen, but I've seen screenshots and people in chat have, bitched about it as well. But, yeah.
Okay. My cat bumped the table. I'm sorry. You're big again.
Oh my god. Wait, how does this keep happening?
I don't know, because I'm not in the Skype call, right? Because I'm hosting, so I've got my camera through OBS, so it's I don't know. It's just bad. So I'm sorry. You're just big.
No, that's fine.
Speaking of like ranked ladder, Mago recently was the first one to hit GM in our the top deck rat race, and it's sort of like interesting because we kind of see like Mago is a player that some people don't know about, but Mago was at like the top of the pro ladder and then just decided like, hey, look, money, and then raced instantly for the top of the normal ranked ladder and made it, but had like a lot of complaints about the ranked ladder system at the top. Are those like complaints that you guys share? Like he basically
what was he saying?
He basically
Long
said that
times.
really he said it was like really long queue times, and when you get to the top, like you basically can't climb anymore because if no one else at the top is playing, you basically just he said you basically can't play at all because you gain almost nothing like for any match that you play. So he said you basically can't climb unless like anyone within 100 spots of you is playing, and
that's a large part of the reason why like the rising of the upper limits of MMR at the start of each season is so slow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because you have to kind of like hit your spot and then you have to camp until everyone else plays again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the rising of the upper MMR each ranked season isn't actually about like the top players climbing. It's about like the players between like the 100 and 500 area climbing, right? Almost.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just because of how that works.
Where did the Skype go? Hang on, I've lost you guys.
And it's been like that for a while. They just kind of you have to have like that group sort of like push the rest of them up a little bit so they can gain the MMR off of those few games they can get, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they always move as a pack too. Like you'll always see them move up. It's like a pack mentality. Yeah. They all move up like together, and it's interesting because it can sort of be a problem where streamers can't really, if they're at the top, they can't actually stream their ranked games at the top because the queue times are way too obnoxious.
I'm sorry, guys. You just became everyone else. All right, so now we're playing the part of the game where you act as somebody else for the day. Sorry, I'll switch you guys around now.
Okay. No. What? I thought we were role playing.
Okay, we're role playing. All right,
yeah, let's just leave it. It's perfect. I've always wanted to be Mithranor.
That makes one of us.
I wanted to know how you guys honestly feel about the kind of overall trajectory and state of the game, because honestly, this is something that you can't really have a Gwent discussion these days without people talking about. It's kind of all over Reddit, like literally every day, every other day. There's posts. How do we feel about the state of the game, the trajectory things have taken? I haven't talked with all of you recently about this, and I'm actually particularly curious on your opinion, Mithranor, about kind of how things are going, what issues you perceive, whether things are kind of more salvageable, because a lot of people are very kind of pessimistic. Well, some people are saying that it's actually like not so bad, and with some minor tweaks there could easily be like a lot better of kind of things. A lot of people have been complaining about RNG being added, kind of synergy feeling a little bland, and then of course just a lot of kind of general bugs and stuff like that have been in the game.
Right. In general, I think it's it's definitely salvageable, but there's a lot of things to work through. I still. Oh, now I get to be big.
No, you get to be big.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
I still think that basically the commitment for changes only once a month is not the best thing for a game that's still in beta. I wish that they would go back to what they'd said previously, where they were going to be doing more frequent changes and more balanced changes and things to the cards. Since like this last patch, we have, like you said, basically no changes, so it's very difficult, especially for you as like a deck builder, to want to get into constructed because of that. Along with that, there's obviously there's lots of balance issues here and there that people are going to constantly talk about, and then I think the game could be more new player friendly. Watching a little bit of Crip's stream, you see him making some mistakes that are purely because the card text is not clear enough, Like
Dude,
with
those texts that say repeat 2 times or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
like with Hinzel, I never even thought about Hinzel as being a card that wasn't clear on its card text, but Ally isn't really explained as a card that's on the board very well. After you play it and you realize, yeah, Ally has to be on the board, Ally doesn't include things in your deck. As a new player, you don't necessarily know that, so you're probably going to make that mistake, but the card text could be a little clearer. Ally could be a keyword, for example, if they wanted to go that direction.
I think it used to be, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it did used to be. It used to be hoverable, and they ended up, they kind of wanted to cut back on, like, because before they had, like, every other word was a keyword.
Right.
And then hover a card and half the screen was just, like, the text.
Yeah. But then you also have cards like, you have okay, so Last Wish says to play, it shows 2 cards randomly from your deck and you play one. Yeah. And it's actually random. It's actually 2 random cards. It's not the top 2.
I know where you're going with this.
But something like Dijkstra or Stennis, for example, say random, but they are actually the top cards in your deck. And that is very, very misleading, because if you play in Arena, for example, you play
it matters the most in Arena.
Dijkstra, then you see, it actually pulled the top cards, and you see that a couple times, and you're like, okay, Last Wish is probably wrong too. I did this like a few days ago, and you see Last Wish says the exact same thing. This is random, and you don't get this card you step in. It's like, okay, well, shit. I guess it actually is random on this one, and it is just not. It's an area that could be fixed rather easily. It's just we haven't seen it get changed since December. So
Mithranor, literally the same exact thing happened to me. I realized that those 2 cards didn't say top, but they meant top, and I thought that Last Wish pulled the top, and I tried it on the Stefan's unit. Same thing.
And chat was like, no, Last Wish is different. And I'm like, yeah, but I need to test it to see for myself. And I was wrong, and it was just sad. And, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I think something that they've kind of, like, done that I think they maybe initially assumed might be a good thing was they said that they were only going to make these changes at set times. But the problem is there are times where the changes should be more urgent. And there are times where, like, the changes for the sake of changes don't exactly make sense. Yeah. So I kind of liked I liked it when they were just, when changes need to happen, we'll make them happen. And by making them, like, these set times, it's sort of, like, hindered the growth of the game, because we're sometimes just forced to sit through a month of problems to wait for the, the fix that we all know is coming. So I do think that, like, these set points, while they have their upsides, do kind of have downsides at the same time.
I think that's also I think that's also why a lot of people aren't playing too seriously this season, because they've already been through a season of the same stuff minus 10 cards. So
yeah, the meta is really boring.
Well, I think that, I mean, this is actually something that a couple other card games like Duelist actually went through as well. But basically, Gwent kind of started out with, like, this idea of having, like, these kind of small card updates, like, 10 cards every month, 20 cards every month, or something like that. When you get to a certain point, though, your card pool gets big enough, those cards cease to have an impact anymore, right? Because your card pool is so big, it's so established that it's just 10 cards, what's the difference it makes? We're at the point now where, they're transitioning into, like, these larger updates and kind of moving away from, like, the 10 cards a month, which I think is probably better, but it does mean that we're kind of more towards a Hearthstone or many other game style mentality where we're kind of, waiting on updates for these big new expansions, and it's kind of like, it's more very much like feast or famine, right? Because it's like a huge new expansion, or it's like...
Yeah. I mean, I support that for sure when it comes to cards. When it comes to cards, I think, like, the 10 card release thing is, like, not something that should be done very often, just, like, throw it out there. I'd much rather them see, like, the Hearthstone style of expansions. But when it comes to, like, balance changes, I think balance changes should be happening, like, every single month. And, like, significant ones,
no,
like,
I'm
significant,
totally
like, balance changes. But when it comes to new cards, I think, like, the Hearthstone style of expansions or previously adventures, which is basically what Thronebreaker is, it's a really big, really well done adventure. is basically like I think that's the best way to handle new cards in that asset because one, it creates a ton of hype for the game around it. Every time a new expansion drops, like a bunch of people come back to check it out, like the Nax out meme that streamers always have.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the best way to do cards, and then just every month you just hit the ladder with like 5 or 6 balance changes to shake up the meta.
Oh, 5 or 6. Yeah, okay. No, I mean I'm completely in support of that. I think I perfectly agree.
All right.
Alias, what do you think about the trajectory of Gwent?
Trajectory.
Yeah,
I
you're
hope
more in
it's-
the optimistic camp.
Yeah, I'm an eternal optimist, probably even like against my better judgment in most cases, because like a game I really, really loved, which a lot of you know, was Destiny, and they kind of dropped it into the shitter, so that made me sad. So I'm eternally optimistic that Gwent, like it's in a little bit of a slum at the moment, a lot of people will agree, but I'm really hoping that it's positive and it's gonna, great things are coming, Thronebreaker's gonna be great. But yeah, I do think that CDPR have the time now to fiddle and try things and do a lot more PTRs, and get constructive feedback and not just reactive, to what people are saying on Reddit and that type of thing, because the people that have the most sometimes not helpful opinion always speak the loudest. So yeah. I want them to fiddle. I want them to fiddle more and play now, because while it's in beta, like experiment and let's see what happens. Like poke it until something sticks. Let's see. That's my theory anyway. Yeah, hope it's positive.
How would you guys feel if they just took like all of the cards that are basically unplayable and then just like completely just reworked them, just like tried to, or just bumped a bunch of their points and stuff?
Yeah.
Like a huge revamp, and I mean like a full scale one, like as in like they gave like all the Queen's Guards a bunch of points, and they like reworked a bunch of like the really bad they reworked a bunch of the really bad like cards that we'll never see play, like Roach Merciless.
Yeah. Because
Roach Merciless is like by design a terribly designed card, or like a very niche card that's only good in like a specific situation, and then is just never going to see play, obviously. So how would you feel about like a full-scale rework like that one time on ladder? You think that'd do more harm for the game?
It's an interesting idea. I like the idea of it, but I mean, when you think about it, throughout Gwent's history, I mean, we're looking at what 17 months into this beta. Yeah. Gwent's history, and not even its distant history, but like its pretty recent history. You've seen a lot of cards that have gone through reworks. Pretty much every card, particularly the ones that are kind of bad at this point, have already gone through a bunch of reworks, and they're often not really much better off than they were before. I mean, just literally just scroll through a ton of bronzes. You'll see so many of them have gone through either major or like completely unrecognizable reworks to this point, and they are really no better off at all. Like, they completely changed the point distribution on something like Clan Hame Scald, Field Medic. There's so many cards that you don't really think about that they have already gone through like a few reworks.
Yeah, they have.
I'm kind of skeptical that it would just kind of be the same thing again. I think that if they're going to do something like that, there would need to be a bit of a direction shift with kind of how they're approaching the idea of like card designs, and like whether they want to go kind of more into the idea of like supporting certain archetypes, or whether they kind of want to branch out and try to keep things more general.
Yeah,
like it largely has to do with the design direction, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing about that is that a lot of players, especially a lot of casual players, will say that that's one of the things that is kind of a turnoff for Gwent, is coming back and
reworks.
all the cards are just different.
It's not even just the cards.
Yeah.
the whole game is different, like every time, because they change like the fundamental like styles.
And like people are like us, we're still figuring out changes that happened in the midwinter update, like with Last Wish.
Yeah.
You know? And I could play this game every day, like, and we're just not figuring this out like a couple months later. And new like casual players, they're all their bronzes are completely different. They have no idea what decks are playable anymore, and it's a huge shift whenever they do reworks on cards like that. So I like the idea as far as testing goes, but reworking that many things at once does tend to put off a lot of people, I think. just
Yeah,
because they have to
for sure.
relearn the game basically.
I think that it would have been a good idea if it had been done kind of earlier, and if it had been done right, and if it had been done once. But
Yeah,
I mean, at this
exactly.
point, it's just doesn't necessarily seem like it'll be the thing that kind of takes the game in a better direction. And I think that's something that I've heard a lot of people talk about. A lot of people have talked about, throughout the history of Gwent, there's been kind of a bit of an issue with like a kind of design direction, right? Like people are saying that the decision making in Gwent has kind of lacked. Like it kind of seems a bit like wandering almost, right? Like they'll make a decision and then they'll kind of go back on it a little bit. There's that meme about like short round 3 finishers or whatever. But then there's a lot of other major stuff like row identity kind of disappearing out of nowhere. I mean, a lot of people were looking forward to kind of row identity being re-implemented in a different way with the agility patch, and it's just kind of like lost.
I think
And
was...
even, not even
Sorry.
in game. Out of game too, with right before Midwinter, we get this community letter saying that they're going to be doing more frequent updates and things like that, and then Midwinter happens and they completely reverse that to we're only going to do once a month updates.
Yeah, it was weird.
And it's a complete reverse.
180. Yeah.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, but it went with what he was saying. So
Oh, good, oh, good. I was just gonna say, like, I think Borja mentioned last week that the cards were redesigned with the new player in mind. So I just want to kind of like shift a question for you guys. How newcomer friendly do you think the game of Gwent is? Because obviously we've had Kriparian and a whole bunch of Hearthstone players coming into Gwent for the first time this week, and a lot of people were just commenting on how the challenges and like the tutorials were not the best in the world to follow.
It's
like,
really
what do you guys
bad.
think?
Gwent has literally always been like in terms of a new player experience. Gwent
It's
has
one of the
always
worst.
been basically the worst.
does the tutorial have cards with
God.
the correct effects in them now? Because
That-
for the longest time, the
think
cards
so.
in tutorial were not actually the cards in the game.
I haven't actually gone back to look. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was a while where like they reworked, a lot of the cards, but they didn't actually update the tutorial AI to understand that. So the tutorial AI would just incorrectly use all of the cards and like yeah, it was really really bad with like Unseen Elder and stuff for a while, like because they had a lot of cards that got reworked with him, like
Oh, yeah.
and so the AI was really really terrible. And then the problem is, like, I've played a decent amount of card games, and like the card games all kind of have like sort of they have weaknesses in their tutorials, or they have weaknesses in like their new player experiences. But the problem is Gwent like doesn't have any like strengths other than that it's free to play friendly for new players. Like that's pretty
very
much
free-to-play friendly,
like
that's
that's
true.
basically what you use to sell this game to new players is it's free to play friendly. Like it's not like you don't really sell it to them like it's easy to pick up or like anything like that like you can with other games. With Gwent, one of the biggest selling points is it's free to play friendly, and if it like ever shifts away from that, you have to be kind of concerned that given its current new player experience, Gwent may suffer a lot in its ability to actually get new players because that's its biggest selling point to new players.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So to be perfectly honest, I think that's a very good point. I mean, it is kind of part of the new player experience, the fact that like you do have like a much more generous like curve for just like getting resources and packs compared to other games. I mean, it's something we take for granted, but I really love the like last pick draft for kegs. Like that's so good of a system. And it's weird. Gwent has always kind of been this bit of a weird game. It's like it's very good at doing some things and pretty bad at doing other things, right? It's not like it's not very well rounded. If you're looking at like a stat screen, it's like really good at like arts and yeah exactly, right? It's weird like that. And I mean I think that if they are able to kind of take the time and kind of smoothen out like a lot of the aspects that need help, then I do think that the game is in a salvageable position.
Magnus
Yeah,
in chat
same.
said, what brought him to Gwent, it was hard and unfriendly, but that seemed to make me want to learn all those mechanics as I had seen the promise of complexity ahead.
Exactly, and that's not a bad thing. That's
No, it's
something
not
that
a
a lot
bad
of other having a steep learning curve is not a bad thing for a game. Like there's a lot of very successful games that have that. that being said, of course you two want to kind of supplement that wherever possible. Like Gwent is kind of never going to be a super new player friendly game because its mechanics are kind of complex and there's a ton of decision making compared to other card games. That being said, it could be made, a little more intuitive in a couple places, I guess, is probably the only thing.
Yeah,
And not even just intuitive, but some things that just are never explained in the game, like mulligan blacklisting. Blacklisting and row order effects, things like that that are never explained, and we get constant. It's pretty much a meme that once a week on the subreddit you'll have someone saying their Farseer is not working correctly because they don't know how row ordering works, and so they saw someone play Dragoon with Farseer on like a stream or something, and they try to do it, and it they put them in the wrong spots because they don't know that it matters.
Yeah. I do think that needs to be worked into the game. Like, I haven't played the tutorials in such a long time. I started playing like almost a year ago, I think. And then I found Gwent DB, and then I found Swim, and then I found your Buff a Dwarf, Play a Dwarf thing. So it's all your fault, Swim.
Yeah. How many people didn't even play the game back then? How many people started playing in like open beta and weren't even able to experience firsthand the majesty of
that's
the
me
Buff
right
a
there.
Dwarf Lockin, you?
No, I didn't start playing until like 2 weeks after the game hit open beta. Like, I was still just playing Hearthstone, and someone was like, "Yo, check this game out," and I went over, and I just had no idea how to play Gwent because there's no like friendly player experience. So I just like learned. And then I was just getting like stomped because you also made a dwarf deck around that time too. That was also really cancerous to play around. So basically what you're telling me is in all of Gwent's history, there's always been a swim dwarf deck. Except for now. Even now though. The Barclay Cleaver combo, even now, the swim dwarf nonsense continues.
Was that you,
Still
Swim?
play that?
Yes. It's annoying.
The Barclay Cleaver in the like Elf Swim style deck.
Yeah.
I still see that deck.
Yeah, I see it a lot as well.
I don't see it at all because I just play Arena. That's the best part. I don't even have to experience playing against my own decks anymore.
Okay.
I make the decks and I just play Arena.
So someone's just like, here.
The perfect time.
It's the long con. Oh man.
Oh, shame, Swim. You are still sick as a dog. I see our North American plague is spread now. It's like gone to merchant over the pond. So, dude, I feel for you.
It's gone airborne at this point. It's an airborne illness. It's coming for all of you at this point. I mean, it's pretty bad. I think Swim actually got it even a little bit worse than I did. And you're still feeling a little under the weather, Swim.
Oh, I'm feeling under the something.
Yeah, I can hear your voice.
That's not great.
Oh,
yeah.
Anyway,
we need to try and infect the myth.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll just hide in Madagascar. I'm safe.
Jesus.
Madagascar. I got it. Okay. So at this point, guys, we are going to take it to viewer questions now. Lockin, Mithranor, alias. Two things. You guys, if you see any questions you see in chat that are tagged at Topdeck Gwent that you would like to read out, go ahead and pop them out. But B, if we got to this area and you guys had anything else you wanted to talk about, just kind of pretend you see a viewer ask it, and it'll just go hunky-dory from there on out. Cool. Anyway, of course, chat, if you guys want to ask any questions to any of us specifically, us as a large, this is now the opportunity to do so. I'm going to take this opportunity to fill my water really quick because I'm parched.
All right. While Swim is filling water, I just want to let you guys know that Panda is doing something cool. You guys all know Impetuous Pandad. He is the business, and he is doing an arena showdown. There is the information if you would like to check it out. So basically what he is doing is hosting an arena showdown, which he'll be casting with guest casters, and it will be a lot of fun. So if you guys want to get involved, go check out that Reddit. Go check out the tweets, follow him on Twitter, and follow Topdeck Pro as well. And yeah, if you want to have a good time, play some meme arena decks, and have Panda and a awesome guest caster cast it, then please go check that out. It's gonna be spiffy. Yes. All right.
One question that I saw that was kind of interesting that I would like to hear you guys' opinion on is, what do you guys think someone asked, what was your favorite Gwent meta? And like, I'll just kind of like adjust that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite deck of all time, like in Gwent?
Hyperthin. I milled 3 factions for Hyperthin. Pumpkins,
3
Hyperthin.
factions.
Yes, when I started my
Wow.
PC account, I was like, fuck it, I want to play this deck. I don't have any of the scraps and shit on PlayStation, so I'm going to start my streaming career, and we're going to play Hyperthin, and that's what I did. So
Kind of funny. That's actually what I started playing when I joined the game too.
Alright.
In open beta was like Pumpkin's hyper thin Siri dash list. I just like someone was like, yeah, this is like kind of a combo thing. So I just played a bunch of that. That was like what I played a lot back then. Oh jeez.
Gold immunity, how I miss you.
Yeah, gold immunity. I cry every time.
I know, right? Let's have a look. Let's see any other cool questions. Who will win Gwent Challenger? Ooh, that's a good one. You guys know Gwent.
I think
Gwent
you
Open?
mean open.
Open, yeah, because
right?
Open is first. We don't know who the
yeah,
challenger.
the open is the one that's coming up next.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I am behind Colomon, 100%. I think he's awesome. What do you
Still
guys
my
think?
answer.
Who's in Gwent's Open? I don't actually know.
Oh god.
Let's see if we know. It's LB Dutch Boy, so I don't know how to say the names properly. Demorki, Schmel, Pronio. Help me out here, chat. Adzikov, I think. Tailbot. Who else? I think I missed one or two.
Demorcus is in
Colomon.
there.
Yeah, I got Demorcus.
Okay, I was not listening to when you were saying the names, so I actually don't remember.
It's alright, but yeah, I think those are thems.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really torn. I'll cheer for both of them. Demorcus is a really good friend of mine,
Yeah.
really talented player. But Colmon, obviously recently joining the team, he's a really nice guy, very, very talented player. Probably, in my opinion, top 3, top 4 players in all of Gwent right now.
Yeah.
Really, really good player. So he's obviously a huge, pick to win it, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking that if I had to pick one person right now, probably Colmon.
Cool. Myth?
I legitimately have no idea. I don't know who half these people are. Sorry.
It's alright. Just say, yay, Colomon, and then we're good.
Yeah, cool. I know his name. I know Tailbot's name. I know Azikov, but
Yeah.
some of the other names you mentioned I don't recognize. But
Yeah.
those 3, I mean, from what I've seen, they're all very good, and I would put it between Colomon and Tailbot, just between the 3 that I know of.
Yeah.
But I don't.
I mean, that
close.
Tailbot's a safe guess too. Tailbot's
Yeah,
really
he's
good
very
at the
good.
game. I mean,
He's very good.
I mean, that's a safe guess, right? Like you just throw the dart at the board and just hope it gets there. Like Tailbot's like a safe pick.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question. This is a very open-ended one. What do you guys each think Gwent's single biggest thing it needs to focus on right now is? This is a good question.
Okay, I've sort of like this kind of a broad answer, but
Well,
I think it. Yeah, I mean, it really needs to focus on its own identity. I think Gwent needs to like really focus on what it does best. And to be perfectly honest, I don't actually know what that is like in specific. Like maybe it's its skill level, maybe it's its unique design. Like
Definitely
around
some form
system.
of row identity because
Yeah.
absolutely row identity would be a part of that because I mean you have this like 3-row system that's taking up so much of the UI and you're just not
Yeah.
using it to its full potential.
Yeah.
You get
So
new players asking all the time, "What's the point of the 3 rows?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
it affects like a dozen of the different spells.
You
in
see,
the game.
4 and 16 years ago, it used to be a thing.
Player runs
But-
Igni, so that's why you
Yeah.
have 3 rows.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can't play around Hailstorm if there's only 1 row, guys.
I know,
So
right?
Yeah,
But
but they
yeah.
also does that in Arena, so
yeah, exactly. So that's like for me. I think Gwent should really focus on what it does best on its own identity because I think that's what makes it marketable. I think that's why a lot of people flocked to Gwent so readily, is because it was different. And I want to see Gwent like really hone in on what it does best and what it does different to just stand out on the market.
I completely agree. I was going to give the same exact answer that you just gave to the overall question, which is focusing more on identity. Now, do you see this as also, kind of reining in on like the RNG effects as well? Because that was, another part of like Gwent's kind of identity as well, right?
I personally preferred it when there was no RNG. A little bit was fine, but
there
not
was
Ever?
never no RNG.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I agree.
there was like a kind of an okay amount of RNG. Well, even then it wasn't really okay. It was like, I remember when Donar would like lock and he would like discard one of the Reaver Hunters like just like every time, or like always steal exactly what he needed to. And it was just like, that was like so terrible. Or, back when, DJ was super RNG for like the time, and now DJ is just a normal part of like our life.
Guys, no RNG in Gwent has been a meme since Challenger 1. I mean, it's always been there, but yeah, the create pushed it like way past the limit.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this is like kind of a complicated thing to explain, but discover is inherently like more okay than create, because in Hearthstone, when you discover something, you have to take the card and put it into your hand, and then usually you pay the mana for that card later anyway. But also by putting it into your hand, it gives the opponent and like you like a certain back and forth too, and like how it's used. And so create is like much worse because discover has this element to it and create doesn't. Create just makes it, and then that's the kind of the problem of, it's one of the reasons that create is never bad.
Exactly. Discover kind of allows you to more so make a plan. I mean, people talk about like good RNG versus bad RNG, and one of the basic tenets of that is that good RNG is RNG that it happens and then you as a player can like kind of react to it, right? Like RNG that, like an opening hand, for example, is more so good RNG because it's RNG, you see your hand, but then you can really make a gameplay based on that. And in the same exact logic, like Discover adding it to your hand allows you to formulate a bit more of a game plan. I absolutely agree. That's part of the reason why I was kind of thrown with Create, and that I thought it would be like a lot better than it was originally, because I was kind of comparing it to Discover, but it ended up just disappointing me.
I got a cool question in chat. What do you guys think about that in round 3 you draw 2 cards instead of 1? Petrify's idea.
Yeah, I saw Petrify post about that on Twitter. I don't, like, okay, someone else field this question. I don't actually know, like, what it would really, like, do, to be honest.
If you got 2 mulligans, that'd be cool.
I can give you a leak right now. CDPR experimented with this literally in, like, November of 2016. It was one of the first things they experimented with. I remember way back then. They didn't do it on like publicly. They did it like internally. They were messing around with it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm considering it as an idea. I don't necessarily mind it.
I mean, the game has changed completely since that point.
No, of course.
Back then, you didn't even have mulligans between rounds, right?
Yeah.
So
I wasn't making any sort of argument. That was just a tidbit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to try that again on some sort of public PTR, but yeah, I don't know how that would affect things. I mean, you would have less of a chance to like bleed your opponent in round 2 down to a good finisher, because they're going to be drawing 2 cards instead of 1, and so your finisher is just inherently a little bit less impactful. But I don't know how that would affect the game overall. I'd like to see it tried, though.
I would.
Another question I saw too, it's sort of like a controversial that a lot of people have been talking about, is supposedly Life Coach has like fully stepped away from Gwent. Like, obviously we know he took some time off. You can just see by his games on the Pro Ladder. I mean, obviously Life Coach leaving is a big deal. He was the reason I even found out about Gwent personally, was when him and Super JJ left Hearthstone. Yeah. I mean, it was a huge exodus. I mean, like, the Hearthstone subreddit for days was just full of JJ and Life Coach interviews, and like they were all on the front page. I mean, pretty much every Hearthstone player that was like hardcore and visited the subreddit found out about Gwent through that.
Yeah.
This is kind of I mean, it's a big deal that Life Coach is leaving, given that he was one of Gwent's leading ambassadors. So, I mean, thoughts basically on, Life Coach is leaving, we presume, right, for, Artifact or Prismata, right? That's basically the 2 options if you leave Gwent at this point. It's Artifact and Prismata.
Well, the other big thing that changes with Life Coach leaving is no more Gwent slams, right? So no more other cool events to look forward to aside from Wild Hunt. So Wild Hunt guys, get your next tournament planned there, friends.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start doing European events now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The European Community Run events are gone, so now we're all NA boys now.
Yeah, all the EU guys have to actually fly over here now,
Haha.
so we've got the monopoly. We actually asked Life Coach to leave so that we could create a monopoly on the tournament scene. It's all part of the plan.
Good shit. All right, my cat is about to freak out. What are you doing? There we go. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, it is sad, obviously, that he has departed. Hopefully he'll make a return sometime. But hey, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
Anyway, I think that's going to be all the time we have for you guys here for this episode of Topdecked, where I was joined by Alias, Lockin, and Mithranor. You guys, what would you like to say as a final shout-out? Any plugs? Where can we find you guys? Would you like to give a shout-out to anyone specific? Now's your opportunity.
You guys first.
All right, get in there, Mithranor.
Whoever the bravest is.
Wait.
Mithranor.
That's all you, Mithranor. All you.
I'm the guest here. I'm not going first.
All right, I'll go first then. I am
I gotta
Alias.
see how this goes.
I'm not Jaggerus. Jaggerus will be back next week, I hope. As will Lurtz. Please, God, come back next week because this was very stressful. I will say, I'm sorry, Mithranor, you have had a massive head the whole day, so shout-outs to you for enduring that, and I apologize profusely. That's me. You guys know where to find me.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next. Yeah, if you guys want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at Topdeck Lockin. You can find me streaming under Lockin Gaming on Twitch, or you can just message Swim a bunch on Discord to get a hold of me. He loves it when people do that. So.
Huh? Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Mithranor.
All right. I guess I'm gonna shout out my chat. I give a shout out to Uma as well, winning me several games yesterday, and I do want to give it a shout out to Lurtz since I know he runs this every week, and I would like my head to be smaller, so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right.
All right. I would like to give my own personal shout out to a new segment that a good friend of mine, you guys might know him as Impetuous Panda, is doing. Impetuous Panda is doing a new kind of segment where he's going to be basically covering. It's like an arena cast. You guys know about this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
When
exactly.
you got water, we
So-
punted it.
It's basically an arena cast that he's going to be doing with a different guest every time. I believe he is taking submissions. Is that right? For specifically like a good
he
arena
is.
run. So if any of you guys have happened to record or perhaps even watch a streamed arena run that you would like to submit, do you guys happen to know what the link is?
Yeah, I've pasted it.
We,
in.
Great,
we
perfect,
actually,
great.
while
No,
you were getting
everyone's more
water,
prepared than me.
we already actually did this whole thing while you were
Oh my
getting
God.
water. But it's double. Panda's so awesome that we'll just shout it out twice,
why would
right?
you guys not let me know?
Well,
Now I've gone and embarrassed myself.
Swim, you know all, but it's fine. Double shout out. Go check it out, guys. It's gonna be a great time. Yeah. So I think that is that then. Thank you guys so much, Lockin and Mithranor, for joining us. Thank you for having me as the hostess today. Jaggerus will be back next week, I hope, as well as Lurtz and top quality production. Yeah.
And we will see you guys next time.